But science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown, an illusion?
Where you been?
Drunk.
Wendy, darling, light of my life.
What is your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death? Yeah, so fuck up and die.
Like, Andy Samberg has got a schnoz, bro, and I love it.
He does.
I love it.
Well, yeah, of course.
You know me.
It's very prominent, and it's...
So-
I know. Yeah.
You're
my
a
schnoz, man.
We were watching this movie, and my wife was like, I was like, man, look at Andy Samberg's schnoz. I love it. And then I was like, talking about how the lead actress, I'm like, oh, yeah, she is the hottest one there. And my wife's like, it's because her teeth, isn't it? And I was like, it absolutely is.
Oh, her teeth have got like that. If they've got character, and
I
so
can't
when her
leave
mouth
any
is
of this
closed,
in it.
You're like, when her mouth is closed, you're like, I'm gonna take her to the Met Gala. Well, when she opens her mouth, you want to like have sex with her behind a Burger King.
She's got that high canine that's like
don't
way
leave
up.
any of this, please God. Don't leave any of this.
She's got the high canine, dude, that I'm like, yeah, buddy. I'm there. No,
I know who that is. Yeah. Yeah. It's like,
anyway, so-
when you can tell the best thing about it is that she had braces. You know that she had the financial security to have braces as a child, but then she fucked up on the retainer, so it kind of screwed one of the teeth up. Beautiful.
That's how I like
Beautiful work.
So this is
Please, God.
the Knowledge Podcast. That's Jordan over there. He's got perfect teeth, and that's why I hate him.
I do. I really do have perfect teeth.
You got pretty straight teeth.
I have permanent retainers, top and bottom. So
do you still?
They're not perfect. Oh yeah, I will for the rest of my life.
Well, I used to have permanent
will.
retainers, and then I ripped it out. And that's why
you're not supposed to. Wait, yeah, you're not supposed to do that. Where you're like, I'm like, what are you, Brad Pitt from?
Dude, I can't.
12 Monkeys.
Yeah, dude, I can't stop fidgeting. It's like Brad Pitt, but it's just like, it's like I had them in, because they like wrap them around your molars or whatever, and it's like, because I had a bottom one, and I couldn't stop flicking it, and like so much, and I like bent it all the way up in a rage, and it like ripped off my tooth. It's like,
you could never be RoboCop. You'd just be ripping your metal skin off.
Oh, never. I could never be
horrific,
RoboCop.
Dude.
I'd just be like fucking horrific mass of flesh.
Can I just say real quick?
What are we talking about?
If I was stuck in a time loop, it's a miracle. I would love it so much. Victoria and I were talking about this last night.
Because I agree.
The whole thing is though, it's like we've talked about this before. I would love to be like invincible, and I'd love to like live forever and keep this youth, like being a vampire or something in that nature. But like immortality, that's awful. That's a
Immortality is brutal.
That's awful. Like,
we'll get
no
into
one
it,
wants
but I think that's why this is one of my favorite of the genre, is because it does touch on like the nihilism that would come with that, which I like, because it's like Groundhog Day does a little bit, and like a couple other, but it's like, the last time loop movie we watched. So we're watching. Thank you. I already said the intro. We watched Palm Springs, if you haven't gathered, and the other time loop movie we watched recently was Edge of Tomorrow. And it's like, that was a fun spin on it, but I feel like a lot of these movies, they really focus on like the practicality of it all. And they don't get as existential as they should.
Right, I agree.
As the story
yeah. It's all about trying
could.
to, the plot hinges around them like wanting to get out, and that's like the main driving force. Where we're already in it, and he's given up, and it's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Then she
do you
comes.
Do synopsis?
Yeah, sure. So
right.
So Palm Springs, 2020. Andy Samberg. They're at this day of this wedding in Palm Springs, this nice resort. He is there, and then you find out soon, like he's got all these moves, and he meets this girl. Very nice. What is her character's name? Sarah. Niles is his character, and he meets Sarah, who's the sister of the bride, and he's like doing all these moves on her and kind of hits it off, and then they're about to scrump in the middle of the night, and then he gets hit with an arrow, and she freaks the fuck out, and he's like, "Roy, you sick fuck!" And then and we know something's up. We already know as the audience, but he escapes.
You're getting,
we know. he escapes into this cave of glowing light, and he's like, "Don't follow me." And then she follows him, and she wakes up and is like, "Whoa, I've already lived the same day. What's going on?" He's like, "Hey, it's one of those time loop things. You know what I'm talking about, Groundhog Day and all that." He basically says, and
They never explicitly say Groundhog
they never
Day
do, but he
in this
says
film,
one of those
'cause they've gotta
time
skirt
loop,
around
infinite
it,
time
but
loop
it's
things.
one of those.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, it's one of those
He
scenarios,
knows,
you know.
He knows that we
And he
know
knows.
as the audience. Like,
Yeah.
they know. Like, they don't spend a long time being like,
Right.
So what? It's just like it's an infinite time loop. Bada bing, bada bam.
That's what's beautiful about this version is that this came at the perfect time where time loop movies are already like established in the zeitgeist. But anyways,
Oh yeah.
back to the plot. She's upset at him, but then through a series of montages of them reliving their lives over and over,
Yeah, he
they start to
teaches her
bond.
like she can't. She's like keeps trying to be like, what if I stay awake? What if I die? And he's like, doesn't matter. Dying hurts. You always wake up. You can never escape. And so let's just have fun with it. And then eventually they do. They just kind of like start just like now they're together. And then they start falling in love, obviously, because they're the only ones that know what's going on. And then J.K. Simmons is this other guy, Roy, who is also stuck in the time loop, but he lives in a different town, but he shows up occasionally to fuck with Niles, essentially, because Niles sucked him in back in the early days, which is hilarious when it goes to that back part. He's like,
Yeah.
those were early
It's a
days,
great-
and he's all
yeah.
talking all like deep and philosophical. It's like, shut up. Like, he sounds like such a loser.
Yeah.
But, they figured it out, and they're going in love and stuff, and then we kind of realize that every morning she's waking up in the groom's room, and she was having an affair with the groom, and she's got all this guilt because she kind of like for a minute allowed herself to forget that was the case, and then so she had a moment and she left, and her and Niles had a big fight because she was like losing her shit about wanting to get out, and he was like, I don't want to, like, let's just do it. So she just kind of disappeared for a while, and Niles was like, actually, I'm in love. And she was fucking off learning about quantum mechanics and alternate realities and like time dilation and shit. So eventually, she comes back and he's like, I love you and I love you for who you are no matter what. And he goes to see Roy and it was like, hey man, let's just drop it. And he's like, hey, no, it's all right. Like, I hated you, but we're chill because you're right. Pain sucks. But she's like, no, I figured it out. If we set off a bomb at the right time in the middle of the cave at the right time, then it should force us out of the time loop. She like tested it on a goat, and it seemed to work because the goat's no longer in the time loop. And whatever. I mean, don't think too hard about it because later they're still
I mean,
in the loop as themselves.
We'll talk about that briefly, but yeah. So
And
it's like
all time
that-
movies
it-
work
yeah.
that way, where it's just like, don't
exactly.
hurt yourself.
And it's really sweet because before Sarah does this, and like and Niles and Sarah they have their like they both forgive each other, and they're like, hey, if this works and if it doesn't work, whatever, we love each other, cool. But it's also it's hopeful. But then it's sweet. Sarah calls Roy and leaves him a message to tell him like, hey, this could work, theoretically blowing yourself up. And so they go in together. They're holding hands. It's a beautiful moment. They got the C4 around her. It's it's kind of badass. They blow up, and then you see them in the pool, and you're like, oh, they like you're kind of like that they made it because it's a happy movie, but you're also kind of like, oh, they're in this pool still, and they're just kind of like, oh, what should we do? And then then the neighbors come home, and it's like 2 days later, after the second or the day after the wedding,
and so you're like, oh, they got out, they made it great, and then like, because you do start to get annoyed. You're like, wait, they didn't tell Roy, that's fucked up. And then they're like, during the credit sequence, he's like, he shows up back to the wedding, and like Niles doesn't recognize him. It's like because he's not in the time loop anymore, and so he's like, nice, he's all excited. So like that's a happy note because my wife was like, wait, they didn't go tell Roy, like like rude,
but because it's kind of a throwaway. She's leaving a message, and it's like right at the end of the phone message, and then and then when Roy shows up, he's like, all right, your lady told me about the message. What the fuck are you fucking with me? And he's like, I don't know who you are, buddy. And he's like, oh, hey,
great.
That's cool. But the thing that bothered me the most, they didn't show us the goat. Did she just blow up the goat? It just ended.
I know. I'm fine with it. Yeah. But later I was like, so wait, the goat's not in the loop anymore. It's just not there. Yeah. Like you could tell they didn't focus on it because it would be like too many questions. So they kind of just are like, showed her with the goat in a montage, and then later she mentions it, but that's it. They never like, hey, there's a goat, and now there's not a goat. Because then it's just like they just disappeared from the time, like the world altogether, and just some alternate reality, you know? Because it's like, where did the goat go? Is it dead? And if it's dead, why aren't they dead? But you know, whatever.
But it's probably the goat's probably just back in the past, or back with the dude, right? Because it was. I think the goat is that like that weird guy, the weird gun guy's goat. I think. But anyways,
the one where he's just like, I'm your son.
Yeah, I know, that's so funny. But so the goat, the goat's whatever. The goat doesn't matter. But I still was like, rip to the goat. But you know what I was reading? Someone posed the question, like, this is just a fun fan theory, that Nana, like the old woman that's in it for like 35 seconds, she has like 2 scenes. Apparently they were talking about she's in it. She knew, like the way that she like discussed it with them, and like I was thinking about it afterwards. I wish I knew this fact when I watched it, so I could like really focus on those scenes. But from what I remember, this movie does a really good job at like kind of subverting your expectation on what people are saying, like through their conversations, because everything seems kind of like normal, where they're just like, man, life's real tough, dude, you never know, like kind of goes round and round, and like they'll say those kind of idioms where you're like, oh, that just kind of applies to like the facts of life.
Yeah, it could work both ways.
But it's
where
deeper.
It's, like,
it's deeper, and deeper where it's like, well, yeah, I'm literally stuck in this like perpetual hell.
Right, like
I'm
the
always
first
reliving it.
The first real time you see Niles after he's like whacking off to his girlfriend getting dressed, when he's in the pool, and the one guy's like, you never know what could happen, but he's like, what kind of day is it? He's like, today, tomorrow, yesterday, it's all the same shit. And like,
right,
it's a time movie maybe going in, but like first time watching it, you're like, oh, like I didn't really know, because this is like my second or third time seeing this, and I was like, so now I'm like, obviously, I was like, oh yeah, all that earlier on stuff, like all the dialogue earlier on, like clicks in it like a different way now that I know that he's been stuck in the time loop. Like when that guy, he's like, nice try though. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's because he like bangs him. The other ones.
Yeah. right. That's what's great. Yeah. And like I like Victoria's never seen it, and so like she didn't know. She has no idea. She hasn't heard about it. And so like as it's going, Victoria's like, this is weird. Like the beginning, she goes, because it's like it's kind of like a quirky rom-com-y, kind of like in just like whatever Judd Apatow vein. Just kind of it's a little dickish, a little goofy.
Yeah,
it's Andy Samberg all over it. And it's got that going. And so like this movie could be like, this could have no time plot period, and it could just still be that same kind of movie where he's just kind of a fuck up going through, and then you find out about the cheating and stuff, and so it really could be like a straightforward narrative. And so
right.
like,
It's just like early on
thing is kind
when
of
he
fun.
starts doing like knowing every move in the dance floor while he's staring her down, you're like,
but
huh.
It's weird. Yeah, well, I know the gimmick, and so I think it's weird. And Victoria didn't, and she also kind of was picking up like, this is weird, but you don't really know. It's kind of, that's what's nice about it. They do a really good job at like hiding it.
Yeah, it doesn't dwell in it, because even though you're following Niles, even though you're following him,
right?
Sarah is like the audience, like stand-in, right? Where it's like because like obviously she falls into it, and then he explains all the rules, and like you can't die, and it's like going through all the steps of the learning process. But he gets stuck in the rut of can never commit, can never like get out, and he's stuck in his nihilism. Where she is like doesn't take that for an answer and does find a way to get out, obviously, eventually. Which is great, because it's like, yeah, that's the driving force, because like that's what we want to know, you know what I mean? It's like all that, because they do it in a really fun and quirky way through the lens of like a rom-com, which is like a well done rom-com that's not like super cheesy and dumb. Like, I don't know, like it works. Like I bought their relationship, and it's like it's nice and R-rated, which obviously I'm a fan of.
I know, right. It makes it feel more realistic. I mean, this really could have been PG-13 though, honestly, and I don't think it would have changed too much.
It could have, yeah.
But I do appreciate that like they didn't have to pull any punches, and I do appreciate that it wasn't as blatantly crass. That was which is like, I'm fine with sex jokes and like, nudity and whatever, all the stuff that Puritans hate. But I also was like, oh, I appreciate that it's like it's kind of silly juvenile, but like juvenile adult. Like it's when they're doing like the dick tattoos and stuff. It's
That's
hilarious.
good. That's
it's like
a good-
such a
that's a good bit.
That's
I
such
like
a
that
good.
bit.
It's such a good bit, and it's a good bit emotionally too. I think
Yeah.
it's a great way to connect.
You
and
think
it's really funny,
he's
and like they have such a good
You did it how I like it.
right,
Hairless
good.
balls, right? With the- it's like, yeah.
hairless balls, right? Yeah. No, that totally subverts your expectation of a joke where you like, and it's great. I think it's really cool. It shows who these characters are, and it's like, this is what you get though when you get to write your love story. It feels so natural. They feel so connected, and I really appreciated that. I think that one thing about it that I wish they did a little more is like gave Andy Samberg's character like more of a push to like not want to be in a relationship, but then when it came to the end, it felt a little forced. So it's like it's weird how nihilist he is, and then how he just kind of flipped. But I mean, it's fine. It's just for the movie.
Well,
it's
it's
not,
because it's like
that
in
important, but
the last 2/3 when they have their when they take the mushrooms and they see the dinosaurs, and that's a nice bonding moment.
Yeah.
But he can't admit, he's like, oh, actually I don't care, you know what I mean? And they're like haters pretending not to care, and he's like, I'm into that, and it's like that's obviously like his whole character. And I was like even saying like to my wife, I'm like, yeah, it's like he's been in here for God knows how long, and he still can't even commit, because it's like, obviously this is a nice tight 90-minute movie.
Oh.
Which,
so good, dude.
Which
yeah.
I
Perfect
really
runtime,
appreciate.
Very lean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like, it's like you never know, like from their perspective, like time is a weird thing, and he's literally like, oh, I hope it's not my millionth birthday. Like you do start to like lose your mind a little bit, and so it's I see what you're saying, because like for the point of the movie, it makes sense, because when it starts getting into that, it does feel like, oh, that's crammed into like the last half an hour, last 20 minutes, which is fine, because it's like we all know it's gonna get there anyway.
Exactly. That's the trajectory.
We know
the first
beats.
like 15 minutes when they meet each other.
Yeah.
I know that
and they're going through the montage, and
yeah.
they keep waking up in bed smiling and shit, and you're like, okay,
yeah, of course.
like obviously.
And I do,
but
I do appreciate that they both have like they're both kind of like an equal playing field of like he's getting cheated on, but he's also kind of like like he has a big lie to her, and then she has a big lie, and like they both have like a nice character resolution, and so it really is just like it is a really tight film, and I really
it's nice,
appreciate
'cause-
that, and it's got some great jokes.
Well, it's a good simple romantic plot, and like the good characters, where it's like he has that speech where Niles has that speech where he's talking about like living in the now. I don't care about your past, and I'm like, I thought that was interesting because there wasn't like a ton of pontificating about fucking their past, because it's like you really don't know much about either of their pasts, but everything you need to know about them from their present, which, I mean, like, that she is cheating with the fucking groom, but you don't know how she got there, what led to those circumstances, like, because she's just waking up, everything, yesterday is today is today, tomorrow is today, right? Like, everything's today, and, like, the film writing of the character development also follows that trajectory, because it's like, we don't know anything about Niles. Like, he never even he's like, we don't know what their jobs were. We don't know.
And I love that joke.
Yeah,
I love the joke when every time he interacts with the family, the group, the bride's family. they're so like, what? And he's like, I'm Niles. I'm Stacy's boyfriend or whatever, the Misty's boyfriend.
Misty's boyfriend.
I'm Misty's boyfriend, and they're like, oh, okay.
I know, because it's like he knows them all so intimately, and they're like, who are you again? Because he keeps dropping. It's so good. I love that.
That's a great character design. Like, because he just he
came
would already
to the
be
wedding is like
like that.
Been dating for 6 months or however long, or a year or whatever.
Right. Yeah, they've been together for too long. And
I love that bit though, because he keeps being like, yeah, typical Sarah, and like cuts in on their conversation, and they're like, who are you?
Yeah.
And then like
he's
later,
like making margaritas or whatever.
Right. And the groom like attacks him and is like, Misty's boyfriend, and like just choking him out, like doesn't know his name.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, Misty's boyfriend, you want in on this with the coke?
Yeah,
that's a good bit. I don't know, this movie. I think this is the third time I watched it, according to Letterboxd. So it's like, but like, this is just a fun, like, this is a fun movie. Like, it's not like, it does everything it does of like the genre, the time loop genre. it does it all extremely well while posing just enough meat on the bones to be like just existential and like philosophical that kind of like scenario would need, while also being just like a quirky, clever rom-com with just enough raunch. Like, it is just a really tight package all around. And so it's like,
Yeah.
I'll probably watch this movie again, and it's not because I absolutely love it, which I do really enjoy it, but it's just because it's just so easy, and it's just while you're watching it,
It goes down easy, and I'm there.
It's fun.
I think you and I are both fans of the gimmick. I think we
like
if you go listen to our episode of Live Die Repeat or whatever, and so we like, what's it called?
Edge of Tomorrow. I know I keep
Edge
wanting
of
to call it
Tomorrow.
Live Die Repeat.
Go,
too.
yeah, go listen to our podcast of Edge of Tomorrow. We you know, as like, you know, fraught with like inconsistencies and redundancies, and just like kind of as flawed as this plot device is, I still really enjoy it. I love the science around it, and I like in even like Groundhog's Day, they're kind of just like, it just kind of shit happens. Like, it just happens, you know. It kind of, you don't have to like, I don't need a movie to like break it down. Like, that's what, actually in this one they do kind of break it down with like quantum physics, and so, you know, she goes through, and like, it's so, I love that, like, she learns, and that like breaks down like one of my favorite parts of that movie is like the time you would have to learn something. That's really awesome. Like,
that's
in
what's
real
fun.
life,
That's
this
what
cotton one.
That's the wasted potential of Niles, because even though like he's good at doing stuff, but he does just like kind of fade out to it, where it's just like, and where in Groundhog Day he becomes like an amazing pianist, and like he can do all this stuff, you know.
Right. Yeah. I wanted to say the reason that Niles is nihilistic, and it is his character.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like a dumb joke to name him Niles, because that was I was reading about this movie in an interview, and they were talking about how the original script for this movie, they were going to make a literal Palm Springs leaving Las Vegas, and it was going to be really dark. Like, it wasn't even really going to have, it was going to have the time loop, but the time loop was going to be really simple, and even more simple, and like kind of a background of him just going and like drinking himself to death in Palm Springs, but with like Andy Samberg's. And so I feel like they kept a lot of that in. They definitely like bringing Sarah and making her like more of the audience surrogate, or more of just like more of the main character surrogate, you know, that would be like your typical main character in this time loop kind of movie. Because like that's how it usually follows, like
someone falling into it,
person, which is the first person view essentially of them,
right? Because that way it can fast track all the like, because we know the trope by then. It's like it can fast track it by like, here's what's going on, because there's somebody already established in it. You're new to it. Here's all the shit, and you're like, because you want to see that stuff, because it's fun to watch someone realize that they're in it and try and figure out the rules of it, and like that's fun, but it doesn't dwell in it forever. Like she does, like they do get to them having fun and falling in love, because that's more what it's about. It's about like getting to know this person over this time, and like, is it because we're stuck in a time loop together, or is it because we're actually seem compatible with one another? You know what I mean? In that way, because she's like, what if we get sick of each other? And he's like, we're already sick of each other. You know what I mean? And it's great. You know, and I'm like, I thought that was a really good bit of dialogue, just for like really kind of bringing it around to like the theme and stuff.
Yeah, their relationship is beautiful, and it really reminds me of a fantastic film called Comet. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, I know.
I don't know.
I know Comet, but I've never watched it. You have told me about it, because it's was Justin Long.
I highly recommend it. Yeah, it's Justin Long, and then the girl from Shameless. I can't think of her name. The older sister in Shameless, and then it's the director of Mr. Robot.
Oh,
so
yeah,
the creator of Mr. Robot. Yeah, Sammy Smell or whatever. Yeah, he it's like one of his first movies, if not like I think his first feature or something. And it's like, I would say that it's a more realistic, apt version of this.
Oh,
but
is it a time loop movie?
It's multiple.
Too?
Well, no, it's not time loop, but it's multiple timelines.
Oh, okay.
And
well,
so,
that's cool though.
It plays with time a lot.
I like that.
And so like it's really cool, because like I don't want, like, no spoilers, so I'm just going to say as much as it plays with time. So it's really cool. I highly recommend it. That would be my, if you like this, go watch Comet.
It's funny
That's a good
because
film,
it's
and
like
that has the same thing. I like their relationship.
we do
a
talk
lot.
about this being an established genre, but when you really think about it, like there's not a ton of it, but it's so specific that it does feel like it because it's like obviously like there's Groundhog Day, there's like Happy Death Day, there's Live Die Repeat, and it's like those are like all the big major ones I can think of that's like reliving the same day specifically.
Yeah, and there's that nesting or the Russian Doll.
Oh,
Did you see that show?
Yeah.
There was that show, and I really like that. I really like that TV show. But it is kind of interesting because it is like, I feel like this isn't one that can be done that much. It's like it really like you have to kind of add another gimmick to it.
Yeah.
And so that's
You
kind of
do.
the tricky part.
And
Where
they
I feel like
all
this
pretty much do, you know. Which it's
Yeah.
interesting, like you say, that this one I feel like they all start super dark because that is like the natural inclination of like human nature and stuff, where it's like given enough time and zero consequences, like shit gets dark, right? So it makes sense that this script would start dark. There's like infamously the original Groundhog Day script was super dark, you know what I mean?
right.
And like, but all these movies end up, I mean, not Live Die Repeat, but all of them have like a comedic twinge where that's why Live Die Repeat stood out as a cool sci-fi action twinge. But like, you do kind of need that because it's like, I'm always left with these movies. I really like these type of movies, but I'm always left like wishing they got more into like the philosophical existential dread of it because it is like
I know. I want like a primer. I want a primer version of one of these where it's like just a dude stuck in a bar and he's like doesn't matter how much I drink, I won't die.
dude, one
And,
that's
like,
just
I can
all
abuse my body.
dialogue. That would
And,
be
like,
us. It's just like all dialogue.
I know, right? Right. It would it would be cool to have one that is just like it really would be like that's what's so great is Niall's like he kind of tiptoes towards the edge a little bit he does it in like an Andy Samberg way where it is kind of it's comical and he's kind of like chill bro, there's nothing matters and that kind of thing, and then he has like an underlining like no, a lot of it matters, but you kind of have to give up, you kind of have to like succumb to the fact that you're stuck, that you're the Sisyphus of like being
It's the type of nihilism that you
trapped.
and I subscribe to is basically like nothing
Right,
matters unless you make it matter kind of thing where it's like, you know what I mean?
Exactly,
it's like,
yeah.
What matters is what you choose to make matter. And, but like the thing with these movies, man, like I want to see one. I hate that the goal is always like to get out. I know that it's like a vehicle for like exploring like yourself and like, this is like them like learning to know who they really are and everything. In every one version of this movie, like, there's good character development because they start off flawed and then they get in the time loop and they really have to confront themselves and then they come out being like all this like extra knowledge about like, look at me, I'm enlightened now. But it's like I hate that every one of these movies ends, and like the one book I read, this book called Replay, which is like this same thing except for it's not one day, it's their whole life. They keep dying and then they relive their whole life.
Oh, cool. Yeah, okay.
It's a cool book, but it's kind of awful in the same way. But it's just like, I don't know. It does some cool stuff, but some also really dumb, unfortunate stuff. But even in that book, every one of these has got to have a happy ending, which I'm not, we're over here being like, we want everything dark all the time, which we always say, but it's like, this is they only ever like touch
this would be a dark
on the dread.
Yeah.
Well, Niall says like being a terror to other people is not fun. It's not fulfilling. And I thought that was a really good moment because it's like we always ask ourselves like that's what the movie would like. There would be more of that. But it's like, no, you don't actually want to just see that. Like that's lame. You know what I mean? And you're right. I don't,
Right.
and not in a film, necessarily. It's like, I think, you could ponderous, like, get down into the dark valleys of the psyche of man as he's drinking alone in the bar, being trapped in his time loop.
yeah. I know. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's true. They do talk about the death, and this movie does it in like it does it in a more approachable way. I guess that's the reason it's a very successful film, and it's critic review and just like kind of how it did box office, but not really because that's a whole different can of worms. We'll get into it a little bit later.
Well, do it now. You're already talking about it. Just tell me.
Well, okay. So it was it was around $5 million to shoot.
That's
which
it, huh?
It seems really low to me.
That's-
So I'm kind of. I wonder if that was like Hulu hiding some facts, or
Yeah,
if they
could
were
be.
trying to hide some facts. But
I mean, it is all one location. You know what I mean?
that's the whole thing. It's all one location. They shot it in under 20 days, so it's just like
Yeah.
really, really, really fast shooting day. And I mean, it's a really tight script and a really small cast, so I can believe it.
That's
But
good. That's
5 million,
impressive, though.
I
That's a
think
good. If they did stick to the 5 million,
think
that's
that
a good
would-
stretch.
There was probably something too where like Andy Samberg probably got paid in another way, in
Yeah.
another roundabout way, because
Yeah,
he has
that
a
makes
lot. He has his
sense.
fingers in a lot of pies, you know. But anyways, this this was a Sundance film, and then Hulu bought it from Sundance at one of the highest prices ever, and it was $17.5 million. So that can be factored into box office a little bit, because that's what it was bought for, you know, and Hulu. It's weird.
You
This
remember?
is so hard
You
because
remember when
we're-
Sundance was made for like scrappy independent films?
Oh my god, yeah.
It hasn't
you
been
remember
in a
when
long
it was
time, but
You remember when it was literally a dude who made a movie for $20,000, and then that's
Yeah.
like, you know, it's one of those crazy things where like you used to be able to make a movie for
I
$5,000
when I was like, when we were trying to make movies, people were just like, put your movie in Sundance. And I'm like, man, Sundance is where actors go to their
Scorsese-
side projects, you know?
Yeah, if Martin Scorsese is going through Sundance,
Yeah.
it's kind of like I get it, and like that's a whole another can of worms, because Scorsese actually like isn't really great in the Hollywood system, but he's still Martin Scorsese, so it's kind of like
Right.
that's like he, you know, we've passed the
Our
Sundance. scrappy
$5,000 movie
independent.
is not going to, you know?
Yeah, right. Like the Sundance independent film part is kind of a little bit weird. They've stretched independent a lot. But anyways, it sold for that much. Hulu, I'm
Yeah, it's a
sure,
lot.
kind of makes a lot. I don't really know. That's the hard part about doing this. Like, it technically, what it says that it grossed is $100,000 in the box office through their
Which is-
records.
Yeah, it's like,
But-
it's so
but
hard to
it's like-
track. Yeah, man.
But it is. But it only went through. It was like a six theater release when it got bought, and then it did 66 theaters, like just 66 theaters across the U.S. And so it only made $100,000.
And they only
So
do that
I would
so
imagine
it's eligible
that was for some
fucking like other
Right,
like
for
awards and
awards.
shit.
because it got nominated for a bunch of awards, but it's like I feel like it's such a weird. That's something we got to do one day, is like research the history of like why a movie has to be released in theaters, or what the threshold is, because I know there is something.
Well,
I
and
can't
they-
remember what it is.
Yeah, they
at
keep
one
wanting
point.
to
It's like-
change it now ever since, like, because it's like, obviously we were making more of a shift towards streaming anyway, and then COVID just fucking fast-tracked that shit. And so it makes sense that this was really, like, Hulu's big push right at the start of COVID, right before COVID, I'm sure, when they bought it. And so this is, like, their big push into, like, them being more of, like, an independent powerhouse, like, producing their own, like, releasing directly onto their platform, you know, because obviously that's like the norm now. Like you said, like Scorsese and like Fincher and everyone is like directly, like Fincher's last two movies were Netflix movies, and you know Scorsese's was like a Netflix and then an Apple. Like that's just the world we live in now. But it's so hard to quantify. Like they do talk about, I mean, with film, I don't know as much. They're a little more tight-lipped about it, but like in the music industry, they're like streaming is like, you have to get like 1 billion streams and you still don't even make any fucking money. And it's like, how does it work? And it's still the Wild West, man. And so it's just like,
Right, it just kind of shifted platforms essentially.
well, it's
just
hard to,
now it's
hard
all
to
online.
see, like, because you say this movie was a success, and you know it was probably well worth the $17 million
if
they bought
paid
it for. But it's just like,
right,
yeah, because it's like how many new subscribers, how many eyes on their platform with ads.
this
Like
was
it's just so convoluted now, you know.
This was the highest streamed or highest like watched movie in 2020. So like or in like comedy section.
Yeah.
So it's just like pretty crazy that like, you know, and it makes sense. Like I saw it in 2020.
Yeah,
I remember watching it.
Liked it.
You know, around the time.
I obviously
So-
still
and it's kind
like
of weird. I wonder what they. It's so. I mean, yeah. It sucks because they're not as transparent as Hollywood. I mean, even the Hollywood studio system is not very transparent
No.
either. But they at least do have, like, they literally keep books, and then those become public, and so it's like, so there is kind of more transparency where, like, video on demand, they really don't tell us anything. It's so weird to be like, we don't know what stream and maybe because there's so much information coming in that you can't really, like, you would have to hire somebody for, like, every movie to like compile the amount of streams and stuff. So
it used to be you bought a ticket for X amount of dollars, and that was taken and then divided up. But now it's like the way they get their money is, again, it's through subscribers, it's through ads. It's like there's so many different avenues to make money off of it. It's like literally just having fucking shit going to their service. And so it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I wish there was someone that would just, like, make a website that's just, like, an algorithm. Like, that's what they should be using AI for, is to just be like, here's how it all comes together, and here's the actual...
The thing is, I'm like, what considers... This is something we've talked about a lot about YouTube.
Financially.
And what considers a view? Because we've gotten thousands of views on our podcasts, or
some
on
of them,
YouTube. and I don't understand what counts as a view.
Yeah, some of them
like
is like 5 seconds. So if you're watching or listening, thank you very much for actually making it into this far.
I know, you've delved deep and you've listened well.
For being a real view, you're one of the real ones. You ain't some fucking bot.
Can we just talk about real quick though? All that money stuff's out of the way. If we want to talk about real money. J.K. Simmons, dude, is he not fucking awesome?
He's so good.
He was. It's like, I think that his character was perfect, and he was in it just enough. But I personally wish that he was in it more. I wish
it was just about J.K. Simmons. As much as I love,
I know,
like Andy Samberg.
That should be the sequel.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that'd be a sick sequel to have him to show, because that would be the one where he delves into, like, the more depravity. Because remember how it cuts and he's like killing a lot and he's like really mad. It would be cool to see him do like a Breaking Bad style where he's trying to live his normal life with his family, but he's like filled with all this rage and he's like really pissed. Yeah,
well, because he's an interesting
his
character.
Was great.
Because it's like, you show him, he comes to the party, they have like their coke binge, and they're cool and fun, and but then he's got his home life. Like, he is an interesting character.
You think,
and he's great.
You think that subverts your expectations wildly. You think that he's this like douchey playboy guy that's like always doing drugs, and you think he's just like this wild, crazy dude, and then you find out later it's like that literally probably was, because he's like, this is the best night of my life. Probably was like one of the first times he's ever really gone that deep,
cut loose in
it's
years,
it's not like he didn't bring the drugs, or anything. It's not like he wasn't quite that depraved, and then you find out later that he's just a family man. And I love how he's like, and my son, he's watering some shit. That's weird.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's beautiful.
It's great. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful, and that's a great philosophy. He's got a really good like system on it. Like, I love that. Yeah, I love that the two dying in the ICU is like a big part of this movie.
Yeah,
really. I just that thought is also like, I'm like, oh my god, it's like you're trapped in this loop, but then you can get trapped inside the ICU where like we can keep you alive.
Where he's
for a
literally
long time,
like, they were afraid I'd go into a coma. You know what I mean? He's like,
so they just like they can
insight.
keep you.
I'm like, that's good.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love like, if we're getting into like semantics, it's like fun to think about. He was like, oh, I did a bunch of meth and made it. I can't remember where he said he made it
like
to.
Central America, like, somewhere.
Central America. Yeah, right. And like, I'm like, oh, that's cool that like they are technically allowed to live days. You can live.
It's just
longer,
like your
but it's just as long
which again brings into the fact of like, is this it? Because I mean, the way she explains it, it's like, they're stuck in this time bubble, and like it's them, so they can share it. But it's also like, when it comes down to perspective, where it's because it's like, obviously, for you're experiencing one thing, and then like when you're out of the loop, when it's like when time becomes infinite, it's like that is obviously infinite is a really hard concept for us to grasp, and that's why they're like, how long have we been here? And doesn't matter, because it's like, for all we know, when J.K. Simmons shows up at the end, who knows how long that's been, and he's there on his own. Like, you just don't really know, because time is wishy-washy.
That was
and it's
interesting.
So I mean, that's why I love movies about time and time travel and just weird time gimmicks, because it's like, it is so hard. I feel like it's like a hard thing to make, because it's like the way that us humans understand time, like, we don't know what time is, you know what I mean? Not really. And like, but with the way we our concept of time is like so hard to like kind of grasp. And so it's like I like these movies that kind of play around with it, but also it's like you can't really think about it too much because it's like it just doesn't work, and we don't know, but we don't know the rules. I don't know. That's the thing. It's like we don't know what time is an illusion, man.
I think that what they did with the rules in this movie is satisfactory.
Well, like you said, it's like they
gave us enough,
just enough on like he did all the dark stuff, but they made it funny. Where it's like he's like J.K. Simmons is just torturing Andy Samberg, which in a montage, which is funny, where he like comes out of the pool and he's like, "What's that smell?" And he's like, and he like flicks the cigar in there, lights him up. Like,
right. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they had like 50 more bits because Andy Samberg comes from like the SNL days. He comes from writers' rooms where you have to write like 50 jokes.
Which
it's like so
brings me to what was your favorite part, or like what was your favorite bit or favorite part?
I know that is tough. I really do appreciate the sex part was really funny when he's explaining. He's like, "Oh, I've had sex with everybody." Like he's like, "I've had sex with so many people." Like he's like, we had sex with a dude. He's like, "Yeah, I had a wiener in my butt or whatever." And then he's like, "And I had sex with like your dad."
And it cuts. He's like, "What are we doing?"
What are we doing?
So
and dude, that guy. What? Oh my god, I'm spacing his names right now. He's the dad from OC, baby. Oh my gosh, what is it? Gallagher.
Yeah.
Anyways, he's awesome, and so it was just great. That was a really good scene, and like then and then you find out it's not real. But then I'm like, is it real though? I don't know. I can't trust anything he says because I like how they talk on they touch on like Andy Samberg's memory is also kind of fuzzy. He's like, oh, it truly is spotty. Like he doesn't know how long he's been there.
It's like today. It'd
be fun to know like how long he's actually been in there, because like if he forgot what he really did for a job, it's like that's wild. But it also like it does feed into like I had COVID in quarantine for like I don't even know 6 days or something, and my mind was like mush. I felt like I felt like I was reliving the same day
that's
over
the thing.
and over
It's
again.
like
it's wild.
I
could see like 10 years.
That comes back to like the existential dread of this situation for me, because it's like we don't know how long they've been in there, but like potentially hundreds of years, at least for Andy Samberg's character, because he's like has this grasp. And I think it's maybe been a decade, like who knows, right? For Sarah, but potentially hundreds of years. And it's like, how does a human mind come back from that? Like, how do you come back from like, oh, I'm out of the time loop and everything's fine, and it's like, no, I've like fucking died hundreds of times. I know too much. Like, that's why it's always weird that they come out of the time loop, and it's like,
they retain the memories of the time loop.
It's like sometimes it doesn't work, but it kind of makes me want to watch Happy Death Day again. You should watch those. We should watch both of those maybe we'll watch both of them for Horrortober.
We should do that for Horrortober.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, because I haven't seen this. I haven't seen the sequel, so
it's decent. I mean, it's more about time travel, less slasher gimmick, which is fine. But I liked the slasher gimmick, but still, I like time travel stuff too, so it works. It goes into like the why.
And I'm always I'm always curious about a sequel to those kind of movies too, because it's like, I'm
gonna write my own fucking time loop short story or something just to get the existential dread out of myself. So.
Yeah, and I like it, and I like the more I think about it though, the harder I feel like it is to create a good story. But I think this is my favorite version of it though. You know what I mean? It's like because it's tight, it's lean.
Yeah, I like Groundhog Day as much as the next guy, and it's like you gotta give it props for kind of like getting the ball rolling on that. Course. But it's this movie it does it clean, does it funny, does just enough deep, just enough. Like, it kind of does everything, you know what I mean? It's that's why it's so easy to watch.
What was your favorite part?
Oh, my favorite bit, I mean, I like a lot of the bits. I like every time when Misty was like, "You're cheating on me?" And he's like, "No, you're cheating on me, goofball." He's
goofball,
like, yeah. But, no, my favorite bit is, like, when in the montage when they're doing all the crazy stuff, and he's like, "Stand back, there's a bomb in the cake." And he gets the bomb, and they're like, there actually is a bomb in a cake. So they had to make a bomb and put it in there. And then she's like, oh, no, the sister of the bride. And based on her accent, from origins unknown. She's got, like, the hook, like, foiled again.
Yeah.
And it's just great.
She got to keep that prop That was
Oh, really?
that was like
That's
one of the
amazing.
props you got to keep.
Because it's like I just love that like there's so many like throwaway gags, but it's like that's that other person's life. And so just imagining like what the fuck is happening? Like when every time something crazy happens and they're like, what is going on? You know? I mean, it's just like if you were creating like, I don't know, like Rick and Morty does shit like that where it's like you're actually just creating multiple different dimensions that like keep going, you know, every single time. And so I don't know.
I mean, I just watched that episode of Community where they create the evil timeline.
Oh,
This is
I know.
the 6 days. Yeah, 6 side dice.
Yeah, it's good.
You got any Reddits out there for us, man?
Oh God! Usually I got the money minute to fucking.
I know the
beef me
money
up
minute usually
while
pads it out.
Oh,
I mean, you know,
God.
I can tell you it was shot in Palmdale in Santa Clarita, California. Wasn't actually shot in Palm Springs. So sorry to
Rude.
rip that Band-Aid off.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, I got a couple of Reddit. So Turper13 says, "Top shelf flick. It's cool to see Sandberg in a different role. I really liked the pacing. Some spots felt sluggish, like how he was feeling, and vice versa. It really made it more immersive. The random dude, J.K. Simmons, is awesome. That's hunting. Sandberg was the perfect sprinkle of nonsense. Haha. I was so glad it didn't just end when they blew up. I liked how they fooled you into thinking nothing changed, and then the family shows up. Crying face emoji. 4.4 out of 5. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll never figure you out. But I love you so much.
You're an enigma.
Yeah.
And then, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. I feel like if you hate this movie, like I can understand you feeling meh about it, and it's not like your speed or maybe it's too vulgar or whatever. But if you're just like hate this movie, you're just being a jerk. Like I don't know, like this movie.
I know.
It's
right.
very other
it's
than
so,
the vulgarity.
So unassuming.
It's very unoffensive, you know, in a way. Like it's kind of just. Anyway, so Clones of People 2 says, first watch. This was on my radar when it came out, but I never got around to it. For me, this was easy to like. See? A lighthearted rom-com with a time loop element. The film didn't try to get too deep and kept good energy and a tone throughout to keep it cute. The fact that it kept it so lighthearted made it easy to not have to get into the details of the time loop. This kept it as a passive watch and, in my opinion, a great date movie. J.K. Simmons was a real treat, as always one of the best character actors in the business. The film flowed well and was easy to watch. There were parts I found silly, but whatever. It's not hard sci-fi. I think there are better films in this genre, but more serious. About Time, Midnight in Paris. Overall, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Oh. I forgot about Midnight in Paris.
Midnight in Paris is a good one.
Paris.
But Midnight in Paris is definitely more gimmicky too.
It's like time travel-y too. It's like such a
right.
Because he goes back and like meets Ernest Hemingway.
Right. I think he gets to choose to do it too.
Didn't
but
we?
Anyways, yeah. But
we did it for the podcast. Oh, we did Midnight in Paris for the podcast. I'm pretty sure.
Oh my god! Don't go listen to that one because I think that was like the third episode.
Well, yeah, because we did
fourth episode
for like the second.
I do remember we did. You are 100% right.
Travel.
We did
Because we did.
We have done.
We did Time Trap.
Do not.
And Time Crimes.
No, I was thinking of Time Trap. Well, during this because they go into a cave.
Yeah.
And so in Time Trap, it's a cave too. And so like I just was thinking about that movie. And I'm like,
Time Trap
the
rules.
movie was rough.
I love Time Trap.
I do love it. I do love it. I mean, I hate it, but I love time travel movies, and I would watch any schlocky one.
It's not great. Yeah. It would be an amazing like short story, like a very cool.
Oh, totally.
Anyway,
yeah, as a book, it would be
go listen
terrifying.
to that episode, or don't, because it's old and terrible, probably. But
no, I know they're really bad. You might not even be able to find them. Like you'd have to go to like Podbean or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think they're not on Spotify.
Yeah, I was say they're too old to be on those ones, but they're on Podbean. Check out the Podbean. We like time travel movies. I've never seen About Time fully because my wife watched it and she doesn't like time gimmicks in her romance generally. She says because that for weirdly enough, like the time traveler's wife and shit, like there is quite a bit of like
that's true.
Like romance in time traveling movies is a thing for some reason.
That's the plot. I mean, P.S. I Love You is kind of like that a little bit.
The Lake House.
Or not P.S. I Love You. The Lake House. That's what I was thinking. The Lake House, not P.S. I Love You. The Lake House.
I mean, P.S. I Love You sort of because it's like not
kind of.
It's not time travel, but it's like
that's just telling a
letters.
story from the past or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
But But yeah,
But,
the Lake
but
House
she
is
liked
like time travel.
But she liked this movie. But it was funny because my wife, she'll never listen to this, but she has the worst fucking memory ever, dude. She was
Yeah.
like, "Have I seen this?" And I'm like, "I feel like you did watch it with me last time I watched it." And then so we were watching it, and we got like 45 minutes in, and she's like, "Yeah, I think maybe I have seen this," but then she like doesn't remember anything that happened. But then she was like, "Oh, he's lying, isn't he?" And I was like, "Oh, it's like you've seen this. You're in a time loop." And she was like, "Wait, she's sleeping with the groom, isn't she?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, you're a genius! How did you guess it?" It's like she only remembers
She
it.
knows. She's clairvoyant, dude. She knows. She's like, I just have to watch a movie 10 years before, or whatever, 4 years before, and then watch it again.
She just says that she doesn't really. She likes movies enough, but she watches she is stuck in a time loop because she watches the same movies over and over and over and over. But
Yeah, well,
she says she
we'll
scrubs
put the movies in a book.
Well, she says she scrubs unnecessary information from her brain, which is true. Like it's just like she'll watch a movie and be like, "That was fun," erase from the brain. I got more.
That's called that's called an embolism. She's just experienced the movie's so good. She's like, oh, I'm blacking out.
Right.
Well, no, you got to just transcribe all movies to text and then print them on book.
I know what happened to
read 'em, dude.
novelizations. Let's bring them back, man.
I know, really though. No, dude, novelizations were cool. Man.
They were
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, right. It's like I actually wanted to. I mean, they're cool in theory. I've never read one, but I'd like to. Like the Alien novelization, I've always seen, and I'm like, I should read that. But yeah, Clones of People 2. You
Thank
got your finger.
guys
You got your
for-
finger on it. You should just start a
I know,
podcast because
I know. I'll subscribe.
yeah.
You got to be on this podcast. That's one thing we got to do. We got to reach out and be like,
Something.
hey, can be a guest.
I
Love to
told
get a
that
little
dude. I
interview.
would say I get him some stickers at least. You know what I mean for being such a good fan. Let's get him some stickers or something. So
We'll DM him our info.
so yeah, this movie's fun.
And if you guys out there in podcast land would like to get DMs, we'll drop into your DMs, and you could drop into our DMs over on Patreon because that's where we really, really appreciate you. You can drop us a little Skrilla, a little bit of that cash money.
stickers, extra bonus stuff. We got
Go to your parents' purse, get out a credit card, anyone, just thumb through them all. I know they got like 6. It's hard times out there, folks.
At least
You just type in our one of those card numbers. You get set up. You can listen to us talk about more movies,
I
more
will
features,
say
whatever.
this movie was the most pools out of all the pool movies of the month. This is a
Yes,
hardcore
very
pool
appropriate. Very appropriate pool movie. Yes,
Yeah.
I mean it's like there's a lot of titular scenes that are in that take place in the pool, and so like the
Yes.
funny like one of my favorite bits at the end is when they're in the pool and you're kind of like, oh, did they make it? Did they not make it? And then like the family comes home. A great comedic timing. It's really, and that's one of my favorite jokes too. Is when he's like, "I've got a dog," and she's like, "What?"
Yeah, Fred.
He's
or
like, "Oh
whatever.
yeah, it never came up." Like it's that. That is a good bit. It's a good payoff right there.
This normally would be the last movie, but there are 5 Wednesdays this month, and if you don't
You're
know,
welcome.
we release our shit on Wednesdays, so we're gonna do one more, and it's like a roundup. The runner-ups from the last of the month. There's some good ones in the running. It doesn't end until tomorrow, but so far Boogie Nights is winning just barely. So maybe Boogie Nights might be the last pool movie. Stay tuned. I have a Boogie Nights poster right behind me, so obviously I'm a fan.
So we'll tear that movie down when we watch it.
Yeah,
we're gonna.
So stay tuned for that, and then I'm gonna post something on the Reddit. Keep an eye out for it. Probably this weekend. We're talking like next month where we want to do 60s movies. So I'll probably post something
so
before
let's hear
I
what you
post
got.
a poll and be like, yo, what 60s movies do you want to see? What are your favorites, etc. So keep that going. Hopefully I'm excited. I've been, I think a couple movies have kind of tickled me and got me in the mood for it. So I'm feeling it. So we'll finally watch some James Bond movies maybe because we always keep talking about that. So,
Yeah,
Maybe.
we will.
all right.
We'll do a week of them. Okay. Thank you, folks. Find us on YouTube. Go like and subscribe. You know how we're hungry for those subscriptions.
Jordan's starving over there. Look at him. He's gaunt.
I know, really though. Yeah,
He's wasting away.
Yeah,
He's a
I'm
growing
fucking
boy. He
gone.
needs your subscriptions.
I would love them, dude. I want one of those play buttons so bad, dude. Oh, and I'd get a play button, and I would kiss it, and I'd love it, and I'd feed it.
You'd feed it. It'd be your son.
Yeah.
This is my
really
son.
would. It'd be the most important thing to me. So
I know if I got a
yeah.
play button, I'd just replace my chill. I'd replace all my will with the play button instead of my actual kids. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, the
All
song's
right.
playing
All right.
by now.
Enough
Let's
goofing,
get out of here.
dude. Enough goofing. I'm out of here.
Goofing,
Man.
yeah. Save the goof for a different post show. So, all right. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye now.
Goodbye.